What if I told you level 3 Barrage could do more damage than a level 6 Fireball? We're going to be making a Shadow Sorcerer today using Ranger and definitely not Wild Magic, but either Storm Sorcery or Draconic Bloodline. To start things off, we're going to want to begin the game as a Sorcerer. This is so we get the Constitution proficiency and don't lose our concentration on Shadow Blade every time we get sneezed on. As for stats, take 17 Wisdom and 15 Constitution. Dex, 16, unless you have the gloves of Dexterity, which in this case I do, so I'm putting those points into Charisma. As for your cantrips and spells, go mostly Utility. Minor Illusion's really nice for setting up plays with the Barrage attack. Friends is great early game, but once you're using Shadow Blade, be really careful you don't accidentally use it in dialogue and lose your concentration. As for spells, Shield and Magic Missile are great. I have Sleep from Draconic Bloodline, but it's not necessary. And make sure to also pick up Shocking Grasp. It's a better way of dealing with Steel Watchers than our bow, because they're immune to Shadow Blade. Level 2 is when we start taking levels in Ranger. We're going to go 1 through 9 here, until we get the Barrage attack. Favorite enemy, go for roleplay, and Natural Explorer, I'd recommend the Wasteland Wanderer. Halving damage on fire is very useful since it's such a common source in this game. Level 3, we get a Ranger fighting style. Spells from here on out till we get Barrage. Pick whatever you'd like, it doesn't really affect the build all that much. And for fighting style, make sure you pick up dueling instead of archery. This is going to enhance the damage. Not only on the Shadow Blade, but on the Barrage as well. Level 4, we get our Ranger subclass. We want to pick Gloom Stalker. Higher initiative will make sure we can actually get good use out of Barrage when we go before all the enemies. Level 5, pick up ability improvement and even out your Wisdom and Constitution scores. Level 6, pick whatever spell you like. Spike Growth is nice if this is still early game, but it's up to you. We're not getting Shadow Blade till the start of Act 2 anyways. Level 7, Natural Explorer, might as well pick up another resistance. As for favorite enemy, this is Act 2, it might be nice to have the Sanctified Stalker, but it really doesn't matter. Level 8, I just started picking up any spells that were purple at this point. I do like an aesthetic looking spell loadout. Level 9, Second Feet, push Wisdom up to 20. We want really high spell save DC because Barrage is a dex saving throw, and half the classes, almost 5 out of the 12, have advantage. Sorry, not advantage, proficiency against it. Level 10, we get Barrage. Level 9, if you started with Ranger, totally up to you, but if you're hitting level 10 now, make sure you're respecking. Level 11, we dip back into Sorcerer. We want Meta Magic, mostly for the ability to convert spell slots into higher and lower levels. As for your actual Meta Magic, Twin Spell can be nice because we'll be picking up Command. I'd also recommend Careful Spell. This will help make sure we don't kill our party members with Barrage if they get caught in the blast. But it really doesn't affect things too much, so pick whatever you like. Extended can be good with Command as well, which our next level we're picking up Cleric. And for level 12, yes, we're going War Cleric. This is going to give us extra attacks, which are really nice with not having to use Barrage every turn and how much damage our Shadow Blade does naturally. As for the actual cantrips from cleric, I'd recommend you don't go with guidance and resistance. It's very easy to accidentally click on them in dialogue checks and then just straight up lose your Shadow Blade. So I'm going with Blade Ward, and then Thaumaturgy's okay. The light cantrip and produce flame you don't really want because Shadow Blade does better in darkness. So it's really up to you here. You could also go Sorcerer level 3 and get Quicken spell, but for the most part we're using meta magic to get more level 3 spell slots. For the cleric spells, pick up Sanctuary and Command. Minor healing is okay too. We want a spell that we can use as a bonus action if we ever need to bait out a counter spell. For the gear, I'll have everything important listed in either the comments or the description, as well as the actual leveling guide of this character. Don't feel the need to go back in the video. If you missed anything, it will be listed below. I'm just going to go over synergy and where to actually find these pieces. For headwear, we're either going to want Hood of the Weave or Helmet of Arcane Acuity. You get the helmet in Act 2 in Wraithwind Town underneath the Mason's Guild. There is a room filled with shadows. It pairs really well with Gloomstalker because we get the free attack on turn 1. Every time we land a weapon attack, we get +2 to Arcane Acuity. Every stack of Arcane Acuity is +1 to our spell save DC, which is paramount to this build. Downside to Arcane Acuity is we lose 1 stack per turn, and we also lose stacks when we take damage. Hood of the Weave from Act 3, Mystic Carrion sells it, +2 to spell save DC always is a bit more reliable, but both serve basically the same function, so pick whichever one you think looks better. As for cloaks, 2 options. Helldusk sells Cloak of the Weave in Act 3, or you can get the Cloak of Protection in Act 2 from Harper Tally. +1 to spell save DC is fantastic, but so is +1 to saving throws. As a sorcerer with 16 constitution, we have +7 to our concentration saving throws right now. Most of the time you have to roll a 10 for concentration, unless, of course, you take more than 20 damage, which doesn't happen that often. That being said, we will also have advantage. So +7 means we only need to roll a 3, +8, a 2. Anything above 8 is basically not necessary, because if we roll a 1 and we have +9, well, congrats, we still crit failed the roll. Advantage is going to make up for this. So basically, it's 1 in 200 odds of losing Shadow Blade versus 1 in 400 odds. Completely up to you, it doesn't make a big difference. If you're using both these cloaks already, there's one that looks identical to the Cloak of the Weave inside of Kethric's bedroom called the Cloak of Elemental Protection. For armor, there are multiple sets that'll give us advantage on Constitution saving throws. Earliest one you can get is Minthara's armor, the spidersilk set. Act 2, there is the Barkskin armor from Harper Tally, or the Dark Justiciar half-plate, which you can get from the Gauntlet of Shar. You can also get her very rare version if you're playing an Evil Shadowheart, or you can get Isabel's robe if you want to kill her. It's not really worth it, but if you want to get it without killing her in Act 3, you can knock her out in your camp, but you'll need to find out how to pacify Aelin. You can do this with Dominate Person, take her to another warp point, and then put her to sleep with Feign Death. That's a viable option. You might have to pay her off afterwards because she'll be mad at you. You don't want an immortal soldier rampaging through your camp, bottom line. So it's kind of risky to get your hands on, not exactly worth it. The final set, and the set I'm going with, is the Armor of Landfall. You get this from either Loroican or Roland's Projection in Sorcerer Sundries with an Act 3. Most aesthetic piece of gear, I think, so that's the one I'm going with. For your gloves, if you dumped your dexterity in favor of charisma, you must wear the gloves of dexterity unless you want to miss all your attacks. But if you still have 16 dexterity, you got some more options. We're using the titanstring bow because it's got a purple drawstring and it's going to synergize with the build. We can use the gloves of Hill Giant Strength if we steal them from the House of Hope in Act 3. Or we can use the Legacy of Masters from Daemon. Also in Act 3 is when he sells this pair and it adds +2 damage and +2 to attack rolls for all of our weapons. For your boots, you're going to want one of three pairs, either the disintegrating nightwalkers, Minthara's boots of striding, or the helldusk boots. Nir's boots are fantastic because we get entangle immunity, which is great against flaming fist. However, the prone immunity only extends to ice and grease surfaces. Minthara's boots are more reliable, but they're also uglier unless you're pairing it with the dark justiciar half plate. Direct upgrade is the helldusk boots, which you can find at the top of Worm's Rock Fortress at the start of Act 3. Fantastic pair of boots, but I still prefer the Nightwalkers because this is mostly a build for killing humans, not Steel Watchers. For your amulet, you're going to want the Amulet of the Devout. Yes, it's meant for clerics, but it does give +2 to spell save DC. It only gives one charge of channel divinity on long rest, and they get their divinity back on short rest. So it's 1/7 of their charges, not a big deal. For your rings, of course, you're going to want the Shadowblade ring. You get this in Act 2 from Arabella by doing her questline near the House of Healing. As for your other ring slot, you're going to want the Strange Conduit ring, 1d4 psychic damage while concentrating to all our weapon attacks, which yes, that extends to Barrage. You get this from the Inquisitor's chambers inside the Githyanki Crush. Fantastic ring, I wouldn't swap it out for anything else. For your shield, Swires Sledboard, Remington Forge Act 3. It gives us 2 stacks of Force Conduit per turn, up to 7. Every stack we have reduces incoming physical damage by 1 point, which is fantastic because we don't have any Blade Ward, and that's going to help us maintain concentration. An earlier game option is Daemon's Safeguard Shield. You can get that as early as Act 1. +1 to all saving throws, which puts us to +8, which is nice as a substitute for the Cloak of Protection, but not essential, although I definitely would use this early game. Another piece of gear that might be nice is Omelium's Pearl Power Amulet. Restore level 3 spell slot outside of combat. Not bad, but also not essential. Now, the last thing we need for this build is the Resonance Stone. You get this inside the Mind Flayer colony in the end of Act 2. It creates an aura called Steeped in Bliss. It has a 9-meter radius, and all creatures inside have disadvantage on mental saving throws, but more importantly, they're vulnerable to psychic damage, which means our Shadowblade Barrage will do double damage, and all the damage modifiers we add to it also get doubled. Absolutely fantastic, and 100% essential to the build, very easy to pick up as well. It is a double-edged sword because it affects us as well, but it swings in our favor since we have insane burst damage with Psychic. Now, it doesn't affect Steel Watchers, but that's fine. With our spell save DC as it is, we can already just command them to drop their weapons, so it's completely non-essential for dealing with them. Just be careful for Mind Flayers. Mind Blast will really mess you up, but you can always work around this. Now, the one downside of this build is the fact that Barrage can't be upcast. I don't know if this is a glitch or a feature. It seems kind of strange that it can't be. But either way, we have meta magic, so we're going to convert our spell slots into level 3s. If we burn through all of our spell slots, we'll end up with 6 level 3 spell slots at the end. And that should be more than enough for a long rest. I wouldn't recommend stretching this build to its very limit. It is a caster after all. But if you want even more, you can use the Spell Svant Amulet from the bank. I'm pretty sure this is a glitched item, but basically what it does is it gives you a level 2 spell slot every time you unequip it and re-equip it. As long as you didn't use that spell slot, you get a new one, and turning it into meta magic doesn't count as using it. If they ever patch this, you can also get multiple arcane cultivation elixirs, drinking one and then turning it into spell slots, then just drink another one of a different level, and that'll reset it. And you can do this as many times as you need for infinite spell slots and sorcery points. It is a bit overkill though, and for the purposes of this game, what we already are working with is more than enough, and for that reason I'm going to do this fight all over again, but without any of my buffs, no Cloud Giant Elixir, no Speed Pot. The build is very versatile. Definitely make sure you have at least one spell that you can cast as bonus action. We're very vulnerable to counterspell, so using Sanctuary on an ally or ourself, or even Minor Healing, is a good way to force the mage to use their counterspell, and then we can barrage them or stab them in the face with a free attack on turn 1. As far as Illithid powers go, Black Hole works really well in this build, as does Mind Blast. It's a great candidate for becoming awakened at the Zaithisk. Call of the Week is nice too. For roleplay, I had it in the thumbnail. Displacer Beast shape is really fun because we're kind of a druid with our armor and just how we look, and also the nature magic the ranger has. So that kind of fits the dark druid aesthetic. If you want to use that, of course, you must become a half Illithid. For our ranger companion, us, if you killed him on the Nautiloid, Y, but you can get him in the Mind Flayer colony in Act 2, and he's fantastic with the Resonance Stone, because that doubles his synaptic discharge ability damage. You can also use his item, so you can actually summon him twice for short rest. You can use a spell that it gives you, and then you can also use the item straight out of your inventory. This doesn't consume an action, so you can do it in combat. I'm not sure if that's intended or not, but who cares. Yeah, that's basically it. I would recommend stocking up on Cloud Giant elixirs, though. It adds a lot to the Shadow Blade damage and our bow. Same with speed pots. You can get a lot of these really easily in Act 3 once you hit level 12. Just get a hireling or a companion and reset their level to 1. Every time they level up, this resets merchant inventory. And at Danthalon's Dancing Axe, he's got a merchant above him that has alchemical ingredients, and he has a lot of Cloud Giant elixirs once you hit level 12. So, steal all their stuff, reverse pickpocket an alchemy pouch onto the, what's his face? I don't know, he's a style and horse or something like that. But yeah, you can get lots of alchemy ingredients that way, and then just level up your hireling or companion, reset, and then yoink all their stuff all over again as many times as you want. Popper from Last Day's Circus also has lots of arcane cultivation potions and some alchemy ingredients, although this involves more legwork. Do whatever you need to do. The build's really powerful even without all this stuff, so it just comes down to how OP do you want to be. Anyways, that's basically the video, so thanks for watching. Yeah, have fun with this.